Honestly, I never wanted to go on Royal Caribbean's Enchantment of the Seas, but some friends convinced me that I should give it a try. And you know what? I actually liked it a lot better than I expected, but I think it's for one important reason. Hey everybody, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. One of my neighbors really wanted to go on a guy's cruise, and he invited me to go and implored me to go, and I really didn't want to go because it was on Enchantment of the Seas, and Enchantment is one of Royal Caribbean's oldest, smallest ships. Back in 2018, I went on Rhapsody of the Seas, which is also a Vision class ship of a similar size to Enchantment, and I can't say I loved it. And I have to admit, ever since then, I've pretty much been avoiding the Vision class. It felt fundamentally different from the rest of the fleet, it felt lacking, and I was quite frankly disappointed in that cruise. However, I reluctantly gave in to my friend Kenny and said, okay, we'll go on Enchantment of the Seas. Now, Enchantment is the third smallest ship in Royal Caribbean's fleet, and it's also among the oldest as well. She was built in 1997 and has a capacity of just 2,416 people. So by today's standards, by 2010 standards, this is a tiny cruise ship. Nonetheless, it's been a while since I've been on a Vision class ship, and my style of cruising has definitely changed, and I wasn't cruising with my kids this time, so I thought maybe if I come in with the right approach, I could have a great time on this ship. This particular sailing was a 4-night cruise out of Tampa, Florida, and it went to one port, Cozumel, Mexico. The one thing that really made this cruise work, I think, is I had the right expectations going into it. I knew before the cruise began, I needed to reset what I thought about this ship. I had read plenty of negative reviews out there, but I really didn't want them to ruin the cruise even before it began. On any ship you sail on, you have to be realistic about what it offers and it doesn't offer. It's kind of like visiting a city. If you visit New York City and then go to Allentown, Pennsylvania, you can't expect Allentown to compete with New York City. It's gonna be a different experience. There are things to do in Allentown that you can enjoy, but obviously New York's gonna have a heck of a lot more of it. I think that metaphor holds true for cruise ships as well. A cruise ship like Icon of the Seas that has just incredible things to do, the latest and greatest, newest, big shows, big everything, is really impressive. But that doesn't mean you can't have a good time on a ship like Enchantment, which doesn't have as much as Icon has. While Enchantment doesn't have as many bars, lounges, pools, or top deck activities as those big ships, it does have just enough. It has a really large adults-only solarium, one of the best schooner bars in the fleet because of how big it is, and an impressively large casino. Because the ship was actually stretched by 73 feet, which is a really cool thing in and of itself, where actually they cut the ship in half, split it apart, shoved a new section in the middle, and then fused it all together. Really, really cool stuff. The pool deck feels quite massive as a result, and I was impressed by how many hot tubs they had for a ship of this size. Speaking of the pool deck, it has a bar with one of the best views that any Royal Caribbean ship has of the Oasis Bar. The Oasis Bar faces the ocean, which is a rarity on a lot of ships. For indoor relaxation, I really thought the Viking Crown Lounge was impressive as well. This is a feature that's changed a lot on other ships, but is mostly true to its original vision here on Enchantment. It's a great spot for reading a book, people watching, or just watching the world pass by. Plus, at night, this is where all the club dancing was, and as you all know, that's definitely not my scene. But for other people, that might be of interest for them. After about 24 hours or so on the ship, I suddenly realized I didn't hate Enchantment of the Seas. And I certainly wasn't at the point where I regretted going on board the ship at all. I was really worried that after a day or two, I would really start to hate the ship and really want to go home, but that really never materialized. And I think part of why I enjoyed Enchantment as much as I did was because I went into it not expecting a ship remotely like Utopia of the Seas or Icon of the Seas. Now, you're not going to confuse a ship as old as Enchantment with the newer ones, but that doesn't mean you can't have a good time on it. The core cruising experience is still here, which means a lot of time in the day hanging out by the pool, watching the ocean go by, taking in some music or trivia along the way, and in the evening there's dinner, a show, and music all around the ship. These aren't things that you'll see heavily advertised in a commercial, but I really think it's exactly the relaxing long weekend a lot of people want. On our sea days, I embrace this mantra by relaxing by the pool and just hanging out. One evening, I decided to go in the hot tub in the solarium, and I enjoyed it all to myself. The reality is, a ship this old is going to have dated decor, basic production shows, and signs of age. It's just the reality of it, but I try to focus on the things the ship does well, rather than look for every piece of rust I can spot. One preconceived notion, though, I really couldn't shake was that it was going to be a rusty old ship with broken features all over. But the reality was, it wasn't that at all. Sure, there was rust in some places, and the aesthetics and furniture looked like it belonged on a ship that was built in the 1990s or my grandma's old apartment. but it wasn't falling apart, and it wasn't as rough as some of the reviews I had read led me to believe. Now, to be fair, I found plenty of rust and broken this or that on every Royal Caribbean cruise ship. New ships are not immune to wear and tear, and the ocean is unkind to every piece of metal, not just Vision class ships. If you want to look down and around for rust, you will find it. This is when I started to wrap my head around this cruise better, and I started embracing Enchantment as a fun sailing for just a few days. Yeah, my cabin felt dated, but I also thought the ship's casino was impressively large, and I loved the schooner bar layout because it was impressively large and actually had a nautical theme to it. As I mentioned, I thought the pool deck was particularly well appointed, and I thought it looked great. Without a doubt, not coming into this cruise kicking and screaming based on reviews or assuming I wouldn't like it immediately were all things that really helped ensure I got started off on the right foot. There are two things you should know about Enchantment of the Seas. The really good thing about it and the really bad thing about it. We'll start with the really good thing about it, and that is it's going to be cheap. One of the most important reasons people pick a ship like Enchantment or Grandeur or Vision of the Seas is because the price is going to be cheap. Unlike Royal Caribbean's glitzy new and immensely popular ships, older ships have attractive prices that keep them a compelling option. In general, cruise prices tend to be lower on older ships. New ships come in, they command premium prices, but the older ships don't have that ability, and so the prices go down from there. In my case, I was able to get on board for just $70, but that was because I got a good deal through Royal Caribbean's casino. But my friends who were on board the ship paid just $600 for one person in an inside room for 4 days. That's an incredible value when you think about it, and you won't find anything remotely like that on, say, Icon of the Seas. However, the bad thing about it is definitely the lack of dining options. Small ships just don't have as many choices to begin with, and Enchantment really suffers from this greatly because there's only one specialty restaurant on Enchantment, which is Chop's Grill. Even other Vision class ships have a couple other restaurants on board that cost extra, but Enchantment only had one. On a 4-night cruise, that really doesn't bother me that much because it's really short sailing, but the lack of dining variety would be an issue on a longer sailing. Also, I thought the Windjammer was pretty small and lacked the cooking stations that really make it stand out. I thought the food selections in general was really low in the Windjammer, and while I never went to bed hungry, I do wish there was a greater variety of options. I definitely think the lack of dining options are going to stand out, especially if you're used to sailing on some of Royal Caribbean's newer cruise ships. And after 4 days, I really wasn't bored on the ship because I found enough to keep me entertained. There was enough going on around the ship between the shows, the music, the casino, and of course the pools. The production shows weren't great, I got to admit that, but I managed to stay entertained even without them. Something Enchantment of the Seas has that other Vision class ships do not is actually Boleros, and that's because it was added as part of that stretching process. And then, of course, you have the amazing crew members, which are fantastic. And this is true of every ship out there, but the crew members from all over the world work very hard, and I love getting to meet and interact with them. They're very friendly and welcoming, and it really added a great dimension to the cruise. I think for a 4 or 5 night sailing, this is a fantastic idea and a great price. Newer ships have definitely spoiled me in how much there is. It's kind of like a movie you loved as a kid, but then you grow up and rewatch it and realize it wasn't as good as you remember because newer movies have evolved the genre and done more. Plus, their own tastes have evolved, and the same is true of cruise ships. I wouldn't mind going on Enchantment of the Seas again, but I would hesitate if it were for a week. Or maybe that's the same flawed approach I was trying to avoid in the first place, manifesting itself, and I should go for that long. That's a debate for another day. The important thing is don't make the mistake I did initially, which is dismissing all small ships like Enchantment based purely on its age or size. And honestly, I'll be looking for excuses to get back on a Vision class ship again, much sooner than, say, another 6 years from now. Hopefully this video helped you out and gave you an idea of what it's like to go on one of Royal Caribbean's oldest, smallest cruise ships in the fleet. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts. Do you love Enchantment? What stands out to you about this kind of a ship? And would you consider going on it if you've never done one of these kind of ships before? While you're down below our video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That's that little bell icon. So that way, YouTube will let you know we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.